So, hey guys, today we're going to answer the question of, can you teach someone how to play Yu-Gi-Oh in 20 minutes or less? Well, let's get started then. All right, so Yu-Gi-Oh has three primary types of cards. We have monster cards, and we have spell cards, and we have trap cards, and these can be divided into further subcategories. But we're mostly going to be focusing on monsters for now, which can be divided into extra deck monsters and main deck monsters. As you can see here, I have an extra deck, and here this is where my extra deck monsters go, and then this is where my main deck monsters go. So if we do a sample hand here, we will never draw cards from our extra deck, and they will always stay there. We only draw cards from our main deck. And speaking of monsters, monsters have attack and defense values. So for when we conduct the battle phase, which there's a battle phase, so the phases can be divided into draw phase, main phase, battle phase, main phase. But again, so the differentiation between them is main phase 1, main phase 2, and then there is the end phase, which we do whatever we do there, and then it passes over, and it is the next player's turn. So we only use one value for battle. So we use either the attack or defense value, depending on position. So there's attack position and defense position. If a monster is in attack position, we use the attack value. If in defense, defense position. And there are certain qualities about attack and defense as well. So if two monsters with the same attack battle, both monsters will be destroyed. If a monster with the same attack as an opponent's monster in defense battles, no battle damage will be taken or anything. Neither monster will be destroyed. Monsters in defense position, you never really take battle damage from them. So let's say we have an 100,000 attack monster and a 0 defense monster. If that 0 defense monster gets attacked, you do not take any battle damage. If we have enough 0 attack monster, same situation, it gets attacked, you take 100,000 battle damage. Monsters with higher attack than the whatever value you're attacking into should typically destroy whatever you're attacking. And stuff of higher defense value doesn't get destroyed. That's the general idea. And if we have, for example, in case you guys are wondering, two monsters with 0 attack attacking into each other, they do not get destroyed. So there's a lot of niche rulings like that, but that's the general stuff. And this monster here, Shape Snatch, as you can see, is a normal monster, but they're, of course, effect monsters. So if we go to Vishuda over here, Vishuda has a lot of text, right? So generally, monster effects, we can just summarize it as some monsters have the effect to special summon themselves, special summon other cards, add cards from deck to hand, send cards from deck to hand, and removal effects, which include banish, send to the graveyard, destruction, and banish face down, return to hand, return to deck. So we have all those different types of effects that are essentially removal, and removal just referring to getting things off the board, right? I guess flip face down is also one. So cards can be specifically monsters. So let's say we have Shape Snatch. We can do two things with Shape Snatch. We can either normal summon Shape Snatch, or we can set Shape Snatch. And if we set Shape Snatch, our opponent does not have information on Shape Snatch. So that's one of the advantages, I guess, of setting. But you cannot normal summon in face-up defense position. You have to set a card for it to be kind of like normal summoned, I guess. So setting a card takes up your normal summon, which you get one of every single turn. So if you were to only have Shape Snatch in hand, you can either normal summon or set it. So the defense value is unknown, technically, for your opponent. So if they had for example, also Shape Snatch and were to normal summon it and attempt to run over this in battle, Shape Snatch gets flipped face up and it will be in defense position, and your opponent would take 500. So, next we'll talk about spells and traps. So, there are two types of spells, so you don't have to worry about the effect too much. So, well, let's go with Dark Hole, I guess. So Dark Hole's effect is destroy all monsters on the field. This is a normal spell. So this can only be activated on your turn in main phase 1 or main phase 2. So that's essentially how spells work. But if we were to look at Forbidden Chalice, for example, Forbidden Chalice is a quick play spell. So you can activate this essentially whenever. This can be activated in every single phase, essentially. And this can be activated on either player's turn. To activate a quick play spell on another player's turn, however, you have to set your quick play spell. And there's this niche thing. It doesn't always super matter, but when you set a quick play spell, it effectively becomes a trap. And traps, of course, can only be activated after they have been set for a turn. So, for example, with Forbidden Chalice, there's this effect here to negate a monster, essentially. So, if I were to set Forbidden Chalice, I would no longer be able to do that negate effect. So, I don't know. It doesn't matter super a lot, I guess. But, yeah. It's good to know, I guess. Doesn't super come up that often. But, yeah. Then we have, like, of course, traps, which you just set, and then you can activate on the following turn and every turn after. So traps essentially have to be set for one turn before they can be activated. And they tend to have fairly powerful effects. Then, let's see, we also have field spells, which are worth mentioning, I guess. So these typically have a search effect or something like that. So just an effect on activation or not. It's not always the case. And then it has some sort of continuous effects. So for example, with Crusadia Revival, this will give all Crusadia Link monsters on the field 500 attack. So it depends on the exact field spell, but typically a field spell should have an effect that is continuously affecting one or two players. And yeah, Crusadia Revival just gives you some attack and allows you to attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Also, other monsters you control cannot attack. So, pretty simple, I guess. And then we have, let's see. We have further divisions, I guess. Like, we have, I guess it's important to mention these. We have counter traps. So, this of the Unrivaled Tenyi here is a counter trap. So, these are similar to traps, but they're more powerful. So, counter traps can only be responded to by other counter traps. So, for example, it says here when a spell trap card or monster effect is activated while you control a face-up non-effect monster, negate the activation. So there are cards that negate essentially all cards. So if we go ahead and pull up Baron de Fleur, Baron de Fleur here says, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So let's say our opponent, if we were to activate just a regular negate, they would be able to respond with Baron, right? But if we were to activate Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi, our opponent cannot respond with their Baron Floor, so good info to know. And then let's go over some monster effects now. So there are a lot of different types of monster effects, so we'll start going through some of them, alright? So let's pull up Dark Griffer. So if If a monster has a semicolon or a colon on their effect, this effect will start a chain. So as you can see here, once per turn, you can discard one dark monster. So colon here starts a chain, semicolon. This part is the cost. So there are a thing called chains essentially. So whenever a card is activated that has a colon, this will essentially add onto a chain or start a chain. So well, more on that later. So right now we'll focus on the facts. So this effect, once per turn, you can discard one dark monster. So this will happen uh before the chain resolves, and then send one dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. This happens during resolution. And then this part here does not start a chain. As you can see, there's no colon. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding one level 5 or higher dark monster. So this, of course, is not a quick effect. So, well, the effects can be divided essentially into like, I guess we'll just only use these two. So, ignition, trigger. Well, actually, yeah, there's three, I guess. Ignition, trigger, and then quick effect. So triggered effects essentially happen when a condition is met and the trigger is activated and they're in the correct location, I guess. The trigger effect will activate or be activatable. And then we have ignition effects, which can only be chain link 1 for a chain, right? So cards like, for example, Dark Hole can only ever possibly activate it as chain link 1. So those are ignition. So essentially non-quick effects. And then quick effects can just be activated whenever it says you're allowed to. And then quick effect. So like if it doesn't specify, it's just whenever. If it does specify, then it's only during that time. So for example, a quick effect during your opponent's turn. You can do a thing. So yeah, essentially uh there's uh different spell speeds, I guess, is how you can refer to these. So like spell speed 1 would be the slowest, 2, 3, 4, and then going up. That's how other players consider them, I guess. So if we were to go for spell speed 1, it would be just um like Dark Grepher, normal summon, we activate an ignition, and then spell speed 2 is a quick effect. Spell speed 3 is a counter trap, and then spell speed 4 is something beyond a counter trap where you can't respond to it um, at all. So, like super polymerization, for example. You don't really have to worry about what super polymerization does, just know that you can't do anything in response to super polymerization. So, okay. Now that we're through with this, now we're going to go through chains. So chains resolve in reverse order. So if we were to normal summon Dark Grepher and use Dark Grepher effect, then Forbidden Chalice can be chain 2 to Dark Grepher to negate the effect of Dark Grepher to send. So there are a bunch of little interactions like this, and this is essentially how you win games of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So if we were to special summon Dark Grepher and then we activate the effect as Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Forbidden Chalice on Dark Grepher. Dark Grepher's effect would not resolve, specifically this part, send one dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, but the cost still happens, you can discard one dark monster. So that's the primary thing about chains, essentially, right? And let's see. There's something really important I'm forgetting. Oh, right. How the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually works. So both players have to decide who goes first, and that is decided by coin flip in Master Duel. So you do that first, and then both players have 8,000 life points to start. If you hit 0 life points, you lose. So if both players were to hit 0 life points at the same time, uh, it is a draw, and that is the primary condition. There are also some alternative win conditions. So for example, with Exodia, if you open or no, if you have all pieces of Exodia, this also allows you to win the duel. So these are just alternative win conditions, but primarily it will be dropping your opponent's life points to 0 first before yours are at 0. And that's primarily how the game of Yu-Gi-Oh is played. And of course, there is one normal summon per player per turn, if that makes sense. So if we are player one and it is our turn, then we are allowed to normal summon, and our opponent is not because it is our turn. Then during our opponent's turn, they are allowed to normal summon once as well. So that's kind of how that works. And now to the I guess you would call it fun part or not. So let's go with I don't know, ED. That's fine. So a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh is determined by combos now. So if we were to normal summon this guy will add a card, right? So Kepler will add a card. So this will be their contract with the Gate. So Gate then adds another guy, which will probably be Griffin, and then Griffin will allow us to special summon it, which allows us to make Gilgamesh, and then Gilgamesh will allow us to make, well, to put 2 pendulum monsters in our pendulum zones, and essentially, this will end on just a couple of big assholes that do things, and that is essentially what a combo is. So there are a lot of different combos you can do in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And there are 1 card combos, 2 card combos, 3 card combos, and all that. And these are typically very powerful, but to interact with these, you have hand traps. So if we go here, we have like Ash Blossom Joy Spring, which is just a card in your hand that you can activate as quick effect. So for example, to do my combo, I would need to Kepler in this case to add this Dark Contract or resolve the Dark Contract. So if you Ash either the Dark Contract or 7 Kepler, which you can do because this is kind of a trigger quick effect, honestly. That's closer to what this is. But if the condition is met, you can Ash Blossom to a Spring, which in this case, if I chain link 1 Kepler or Dark Contract with the Gate, you can Ash Blossom to a Spring, and this stops me from grabbing Griffin, so I cannot go into Gilgamesh and I cannot do my combo. So there's also, for example, Max C. So because I'm going to obviously go for essentially cards that will build up different types of advantage. So, for example, if I were to have an effect that says just destroy a monster or negate a monster or negate a card, that trades with whatever card you play, right? So that trades 1 for 1 essentially. And I will put up a lot of cards like that and try to do it as efficiently as possible. So a way you can counteract that is with, for example, Maxi. So if I were to special summon, I as the opponent playing DD here, I guess, if you were to resolve Maxi, every single time I special summon a card, you draw a card, so you would have more cards to throw at the wall, essentially, right? Or try to, like, finesse me with, I guess. So that's a thing. And then I think that is mostly everything. Don't really have time to explain the different extra deck card mechanics, but whatever. So for synchros, you need a tuner and non-tuner typically, and then you synchro summon by sending those cards from the field to the graveyard, essentially. Not required, but that's where they usually end up going. Link monsters, you just send the listed cards directly to the graveyard, and then with XYZ, you use 2 monsters and they become material for that monster. And then with fusions, you typically just need a fusion spell or something that says fusion that does a fusion, and that makes your extra deck monster and time's up. I mean, I guess I explained Yu-Gi-Oh in about 20 or so minutes, so yeah. Couldn't really get into the nitty-gritty of things, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful for any new players. So yeah, that's essentially Yu-Gi-Oh. And if you oh, I forgot to mention, I guess, both players start with 5 cards in hand, and then you draw once in the draw phase every single turn. Yeah, that's an important part of Yu-Gi-Oh! I forgot. But anyways, yeah, we can go more in depth in another video, I suppose. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.